Hi there, this is Kareem Habibi from Keeper's Nursery. Today is the 30th of April 2024 and I'm going to talk to you today about apple blossom. So it is basically the middle of or towards the tail end of the apple blossoming stage of the year. What we've had so far in terms of weather was fairly warm weather to begin with in April, and then since then we've had 2 cold weeks. Um, Temperatures were about 10 degrees. We had a nice, well, not nice, but pretty strong north wind, which kept things quite sort of static in terms of growth. Initially, there was a lot of blossom, not too many pollinators around. That then came to a nice end yesterday where the temperature shot up to 15 degrees Celsius again. So suddenly everything is back in bloom. I'm very happy, and there are lots and lots of pollinators around. There was a lot of rain as well, so you can see on the ground here there's lots of petals. We suddenly had a lot of rain, a nice 25 millimeters of rain, which will keep us going for a few weeks, which is very good news. And anyway, I just wanted to show you some of the different types of apple blossom that there are, because everyone knows that there are lots and lots of different sort of phenotypes with regards to apples. You get a whole range of colors of fruit, sizes of fruit, shapes of fruit, textures, flavors, everything. I mean, there's so much variety in the apple, which is why we've got about 700 different varieties here. I've got my seedlings, I've got about 700 different well, more than that actually. There is just, and everyone is completely different, really. You don't just get loads and loads of shiny red ones and think, okay, well, these are all pretty similar. They are all completely different, which is fascinating. And with regards to the flowering, not only does the flowering time vary massively, so I was hand pollinating where I've got these bags behind me. This is where I've been hand pollinating some blossom, so I've got it all on the record. So the first dates that I collected pollen on the 6th of April. That was the first pollen that I collected, and to be fair, that's when the flower is in a balloon stage, so that's before it's actually opened. Temperatures were quite good then, I have to say, probably around 15 degrees. So on the 6th of April, I was collecting some of the very earliest blossom, cutting off the stamens and collecting pollen in jars. Then I was pollinating from around the 12th of April for a few days. So it was on the 13th and 14th of April, there was very nice weather. So some of the earlier varieties I pollinated then. Again on the 18th, that was the last sort of warm day we had. Then there was, what would that be, about sort of 11 days where it was too cold to pollinate. And I started again yesterday on the 29th. So, and there are still things that I think no, actually, there are still things that haven't come into flower yet. It is earlier than the records really show. So generally with apple trees, each variety alongside lots of characteristics about the actual apple, there's an important factor of when the pollination period is, because that would affect, well, that would be quite crucial for, let's say, if you lived in a cold climate, you wouldn't want an apple that comes into flower too early in case you're going to get sort of April frosts or May frosts if you're that unlucky. So you'd want a later flowering apple. Also, if you've got an early flowering apple tree, you need another early flowering apple tree nearby so that they can pollinate, because most apple trees are not self-fertile, so they actually can recognize their own pollen and reject it, which again allows so much variation in the fruit. If you're constantly outbreeding, that means that every seed is going to be completely different. You end up with a lot of variety, which is good. So alongside the different timings, so the latest apples are probably things like Médaille d'Or, Feuille Morte. These apples are not even in leaf yet. I can probably show you. So every apple you can see around here is in leaf, in flower. Those apples are they just look like dead sticks. It looks like the tree has died in the winter, and miraculously in sort of mid-May, it will suddenly come into flower and leaf. But you need few of them around so that they actually set fruit. Um, So alongside all that timing, there's also a huge difference in the appearance of the flowers, the size of the flowers, the position of the stamen in how long those sort of the anthers are. When you read, I mean, I'm sure the aroma is actually different as well. That's quite a hard thing to detect on the nose. How long the flower hangs around for, how long the actual sort of stalk is on the flower. So much variation. So I'm just going to show you a quick sample of the apples, if I can remember what they are. So here's just a few that I picked. This is by no means the best of the best or anything. This is Annie Elizabeth. So you can see some flowers are very, very dark red and pink. This is more unusual. So things like Brownlee's russet, all the red fleshed apples tend to they tend to have even sort of purple flowers compared to this. This is more pink. Next to this we have a very typical cox-like flower. This is actually Pixie. That's a very late season cox. So cox flowers tend to look like this. They're very sort of pretty, quite petite actually, and you have pink on the outside of the petals and then white on the inside. This one I believe is Fillingham Pippin. So this one is an example of a sort of larger pretty bunch where it's got pink veins. They're sort of, you can see how the flowers cross over each other quite a lot as well. Actually, the king flower in the middle has been completely smothered. That would be the earliest flower to open, actually, the king flower. You can see on this one, the central flowers actually open first. Sorry, I'm really struggling here. But yeah, the flowers don't really cross over as much on these. This is a very petite flower. This is Pine Golden Pippin. You can see how much smaller this flower is. And then next to it, I've collected one of the larger flowers. This one is Epicure, so that's Laxton's Epicure. Huge flowers in comparison to that Pine Golden Pippin, if you see. So there's just huge variation. I mean, this isn't all of it. This is just me walking sort of, what is that, sort of 40 meters and seeing what different flowers I think look particularly interesting. So pollination at this time of the year is important. So you do need nice warm weather. You need a long period of nice warm weather so that everything's pollinated. But right now there are so many bees around. You possibly hear them. It's quite hard to actually catch them on film with this camera, but there's a constant buzzing around. So if we didn't have that buzzing in April, well, mid-April, when I was hand pollinating, there were some bees around, but I would suspect this year will be all right. I think we're due another sort of week of warm weather here at least. Can't really predict too far in advance. See that? Oh, he's run away, the cheeky little bee. There are masses of bees around. Trust me. No, so it's important there's a long sort of nice spell of weather. There's no late frost, so you might be in a place where you do get late frost and you're constantly worried about a late frost coming about and ruining your crop. As I've said before, this crop isn't very crucial to my business. This is more a byproduct. All of these trees here are essentially mother trees that we use for collecting cyanwood for cloning. There's a peacock butterfly doing some pollination, but easier to catch in the camera. Yeah, so these are all for cyanwood, but it will be a good crop. Some years we do have bad crops of apples, which is you know, a bit disheartening to see. It's obviously worse if you are growing fruit for a business rather than growing trees. Trees generally do okay as long as there's not a huge drought in the summer. Most trees are going to do quite well every year. This is Rosemary Russet, which looks quite good. I might stop at a few and show you some of the better examples. Here we've got there's a bee in that one, I was just catching that. So here is Cox's Pomona, not my favourite apple. This is Ashmead's Kernel. I have actually got photographs of most of these on our website, www.keepersnursery.co.uk. So if you look at a variety, you can actually see a picture, an example of the fruit and also an example of the blossom. I haven't done everything, but I've done most of them. So here's an example of a later season one. This is Curtail. You can see the tree This one is actually coming into leaf as well, but you know, next door to it, this one's basically finished as 7 bank. You can see the flowers are pretty much spent on this. Pollination has already taken place, petals have fallen off. This is one of my seedling apples. That's a pretty typical, I'd say relatively boring flower actually. This is Hamid's Red Pippin, but nice long stalks on them, which sort of means that you're going to end up with apples that have long stalks. In comparison, if you look at this surprise apple, very sort of squat stalks, so the apples will be in sort of more cluster arrangement, which isn't the best for sort of having a uniform looking fruit. So here is Foymore. Yeah, I mean, it looks like if you looked at these trees, the one next to it as well, which is Lemon Pippin, is also quite a late flowering apple. But if you look at these two, you think, oh, hang on, these trees have died over the winter. What am I going to do? Trust me, they're not dead. So this, you can see actually, this is still, this looks fine. This isn't dried out. This is still nimble. It's still got sort of water in it. And yeah, in a few weeks, probably actually sort of late May, this will be in full leaf and flower. But it's called Feuillemort for a reason, which in French means sort of dead leaf, because it, you know, I don't know what sort of benefit that has, unless I suppose you live somewhere freezing cold and you really need a late flower. That would be quite handy, but not really if you're I don't know how you're going to get much pollination on that otherwise. But it's an interesting apple, dead interesting to look at. Here's another big blossom. This one is Leathercoat Russet. So yeah, Leathercoat Russet, I've done that on one of my videos. That's a huge apple. That's a sort of interesting russet, quite a sort of strange looking one. This is Beauty of Hants, big blossom again. This one next to it, Orkney, probably from, I'm assuming from the Orkney Isles. This one is a very late one as well, which would make sense because that's in Scotland, for a bit of geography for people who don't know the British Isles. So you would want quite a late flowering apple if you're in the Orkneys, because I don't know what temperature it gets there. Not high at all. So this is a much smaller apple. This is Fern's Pippin. Very small in comparison to some of the others. And then some trees will not set much fruit this year. This is just because of biennial habits. There is some fruit on a biennial tree usually, but not a lot. This is Lord Grosvenor. So some trees, if you don't prune them particularly well, and I'm not thinning fruit basically, it's the thinning fruit which you need to do to ensure you get a good crop. This is a very classic, you know, this is look at the size of these blooms. This one is Stones, not a particularly well-known apple, I'd have to say, but it is a glorious bouquet. Probably, yeah, it does smell like, I mean, it smells like heaven here. So for the next few weeks it will still be heavenly here. Gradually things are starting to sort of finish, which is good. You do want pollination to take place. I'm just going to take you down to some of the earlier ones, which I know some of the fruit will have started to set. So here, this one is Lucum's seedling, and you can see all of these. These have started to, the ovaries have started to grow, so that's basically, these are going to be little apples. I mean, in comparison, the pears, these are already quite big, and unfortunately we do get pear midge. So pear midge, you can see when they're sort of, I guess, blueberry size. If you crack that, you can start seeing they're going a bit black, and you crack them, and it's basically just full of little wormy maggot things. But yeah, I'm not too keen on spraying the pears at that stage. I should, but it's not advisable to sort of spray during the flowering period. But yeah, obviously if you want the crop, you should spray to kill the midge, and it's slightly before the flowering that you spray to kill the midges off. But yeah, obviously you wouldn't spray in the middle of the day when the bees are around. No one would do that. This is a lovely looking one like that, Horsford Prolific. So you've got sort of multicolored looking flower there, where it's very obvious striping on that white and pink. And then you get some flowers which are just well, this isn't completely white, but very white. So the color difference is fascinating. Fascinating stuff to see. And just to show you some, oh yeah, these ones. This is early redbird. Great camera work there. So this is a very early flowering one, and you can see already the fruit is quite advanced. Obviously I'm not going to eat this today. Come on, camera. But that's quite a large size fruitlet already. You know, most things at this stage. Actually, this is quite good as well. This is an early apple. This is Nouveau Golden Hills. Great camera work again. Thank you very much. You're making me look like an amateur. Yeah, you can see it's much bigger than these ones already. That early redbird. It's not a particularly nice apple, but you know, it's early. Early apples have that benefit that you get fruit when there's no fruit around. And you can see inside these bags where I've been hand pollinating. I've pulled the petals off on a lot of these when I was hand pollinating, just to indicate which ones I've done. These will hopefully turn into fruitlets where I've pollinated them, and then these ones where I didn't pollinate them and I left the petals on, those should just drop off because nothing's been able to pollinate them. So yeah, it's a lovely day. Hopefully nice weather. Hopefully everyone else has got great looking blossom as well. And yeah, the nursery's quite busy right now. Tomorrow we're going to open the website, so people will be able to buy apple trees, plum trees and all that, start ordering for winter 2024. So basically from December 2024 we start shipping stuff out, or you can come and collect them if you want. But yeah, we're basically taking orders from tomorrow, so if you want something specific, get on there and order it, or you know, tell your friends and get your orders in. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully that was interesting. I really enjoyed this time of the year. It's a lovely time to just walk around and sort of smell the flowers. Bye.